The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
You're listening to the Sabrecast, brought to you by Better Live Than Dead. And now your hosts, Brayton Wilson and Ryan Wolfe.
And with that, we welcome you to the Sabrecast, Season 2, Episode number 4. This is, I guess, it would be the season preview cast because hockey starts in a couple days. Wednesday night, to be exact. You know me, I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined by two special guests, two of my favorite Twitter followers. I will let them introduce themselves so that way you know and can understand their voices so you can pick it out. Because I don't think we've ever done a three-person podcast before, and if we have, it's always been in person. So take the floor, you guys. Introduce yourselves, and we will get the show rolling here.
I'm Hannah. I'm HBurrito92 on Twitter of the Balls and Sticks podcast, and I'm just really here to yell about some really sad boys.
I'm Ben Mathewson, Ben_Mathewson at Twitter. I'm the guy that posts the GIFs for Sabres games. We'll see how long it lasts this year, but I guess that's what I mostly do, and I write occasionally for Die by the Blade and all that. Yeah, excited to be back on the show with Ryan and Hannah. I'm
excited to have you guys here. I know we've been talking about this for some time now, but hey, we made it work. I was going to have to go shopping tonight too, and this worked out perfectly because as I drove home, I drove into a gigantic rainstorm, and I'm like, well, I'm definitely going nowhere. So this works out perfect. But I
prefer rain over. Sorry, I prefer rain over the 98 degrees we had in Nashville today.
Look at it was
hot though.
I liked it today in Buffalo or in Rochester, I should say. It was nice. I mean, I don't mean to humble brag here, but you know, I just came back from Hawaii and it's nice to be able to breathe again because I can't even explain how hot and thick the air is. So today it was nice, but then it rained.
So I just got back from San Diego for a work trip and they have like no humidity there. And so coming back to Buffalo, I was like, oh no, the air is thick. So I guess we had the opposite experience.
Hey, funny story though. We would have actually met each other in real life for the first time ever, likely at the Boston
on the flight.
Airport. Yeah, exactly.
I was a demon spawn.
I was going to have 7 minutes to get from my Hawaiian Airlines plane to the plane, the JetBlue plane in Boston. So they were like, we'll just push you to the other flight. And I was like, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. After you made me sit here for an hour and a half and do nothing. So that's a good time, but we'll all get together. Don't worry about that. But I want to talk about the Sabres, shockingly, with it being the Sabrecast. We'll talk about everything that makes us sad and mad about the Sabres. Now, for me, guys, I don't know. Like, I obviously write for Die by the Blade. We do this podcast all the time. We talk about hockey pretty much whenever it's hockey season. We're talking about hockey. But my problem is I can't remember the last time I was as unexcited for hockey as I am right now.
Yeah, it's like a pretty bummer beginning of the season. At least last year we had Darlene to look forward to, and this year I'm just like I guess they'll play hockey. It's fine.
It's rough.
Right. I mean, I had been really excited all through the summer. Just, I don't know, I'm generally excited for hockey, and I think a lot of the moves on the margins were positive and a bit forward thinking, and not necessarily safe plays, and so I appreciated that, but the lack of a big move still, and I guess the lines, which I assume we're going to talk about at some point today, have really put a damper on any excitement I may have had going into the season.
Yeah, I mean, going throughout the offseason, we've talked about it with the talks of the Rasmus Ristolainen trade that should have happened by now. Still obviously hasn't happened. But I don't know if it's a Jason Botterill being afraid of making the Ryan O'Reilly deal again, or it's to me, it seems like, I mean, honestly, you got to find the right deal, and he doesn't want to be forced into a deal, although he decided to trade Ryan O'Reilly, whatever. But I guess there's probably some fear there that Rasmus Ristolainen, if not dealt for the right package, and if he turns out to be a number 1 or number 2 or even number 3, it would look really bad. But then also on the flip side, you know, how much longer can they be pushing Rasmus Ristolainen out for 20, 25 minutes a night and trying to tell us he's a number 1 defenseman when clearly he's not very good at all in that role?
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ben.
No, I think a part of the reason, number one, that the idea of a Risto trade made so much sense to me. I still, even right now at this moment, think it makes way too much sense. Is number one, he's bad, and I think the most beneficial part of a Ristolainen trade is him not being on your team anymore. I think that's a net positive in and of itself. And they're in a weird situation where there's, the assumption is there is some sort of value on a trade market in addition to getting him off your team, and so it's a weird opportunity that needs to be taken. And all signs pointed to the team feeling the same way, because you do not acquire 3 NHL level right shot defensemen over the course of 4 or 5 months in Montour Miller and Yoki Haru, and only to keep the guy that is most likely to be traded that has almost very clearly asked for a trade in addition to that. So all signs have pointed to this trade happening and it not happening yet. And we're 2 days away from the first game is concerning, but it has to happen. I don't see how it can't happen yet.
Yeah, it felt like there was a trade lined up this summer that must have fallen through based on some of the moves that were made. And that's also disappointing, because it's only going to be a matter of time before every NHL GM realizes Risto is not actually a top pairing defenseman, and then the return's going to get even worse.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, you look at going into camp, I think the Sabres had like 12 or 13 NHL level defensemen on the roster. I mean, obviously they've pared it down now due to injury and waiving a couple guys, but looking at it now, it's still hard, especially with the line pairings that we've seen that Ben mentioned. It's still really difficult to look at it and say, okay, so Ristolainen's still going to get 20 plus minutes a night, and you're going to have Rasmus Dahlin or some other very talented defenseman having to carry him around and make him look good, because they're essentially, it seems like every coach and every GM who has come to Buffalo since Rasmus Ristolainen has been drafted, their job is to develop him into a number one defenseman, and it hasn't happened, and clearly it won't happen. I mean, I'm trying to remain as positive as possible, but you look at it. Phil Housley was going to be the guy who did it. He didn't do it. Cutting down his minutes is going to do it. That didn't do it. And then his minutes got bumped back up, and it still didn't do it. Give him better defensemen to play with. It still didn't do it. Now we're on a different coach. I mean, Batra was there with, he's obviously been in for a couple of years, but when he came in, it was one of those things where we're going to get a guy, we're going to put guys around him that are going to make him better and make him blossom. And it still hasn't happened. I mean, granted, there's something to be said for the points he puts up, but on the flip side, there's also something to be said for the fancy stats that look god awful.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the points he puts up are because top power play.
Right, exactly. And Dahlin's going to be taking those minutes going forward. And so his points are likely to drop significantly if he's on the Sabres all year, because Dahlin already took over the number one power play spot as it is. And now he'll get the whole year this year, I would assume. So those points have got to drop at this point.
When we saw today too with the oh, sorry, Hannah, you can go.
Sorry, he's going to turn 25 in like a month, and like he's been in the league for what? This is his 5th, 6th season. Like he's not gonna get better at this point. Like I wonder how many we've reached the point where he's just not getting better.
Let me see here. Rasmus Ristolainen is 24. He's played in 424 games in his career. So if not now, when?
Never. That's just never.
That's exactly how I feel. I mean, it's. I mean, you can probably get a GM to bite, because the last 4 seasons he's averaged 41, 45, 41, 43. But last year, I know plus minus is a flawed stat, but there's something to be said for having a minus 41 in a season. That's impressive. I just don't think Rasmus Ristolainen is good. Maybe in a different system he can be okay, but clearly with a cap crunch coming up here in the next couple of years, something's got to give. And I honestly I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what to say about that, because at this point it's he seems to be the odd man out, especially with the defensemen that they're acquiring and how they're developing guys down in Rochester. You got to do something, and maybe taking the leap, maybe getting rid of Ristolainen makes you a little worse now, but in the long run, it makes you better.
I mean, honestly, I think it's just addition by subtraction. Like,
absolutely.
Even if you're just acquiring a couple prospects and a draft pick, like, it's not going to make your team worse. It'll only make your team better.
Just don't go out and get Paige Thompson again.
Right. He's he's a bad hockey player because he has a ton of points, but it's by virtue of the time on ice he's been gifted his entire career. And then not only the time on ice, but he's played with the one or two good players the Sabres have had every single year he's been on the team. So for most of it, it's been Eichel and or Reinhart or Skinner last year. And so just by virtue of being on the ice for 24 minutes a night, the counting stats are going to be inflated to a level that suggests you're better than you are just by virtue of being on the ice with actually good players. So, I think that's the value of some of the underlying stats is that it's like it shines some light on the fact that he's actually bad. And the moment he's not able to play with players like Eichel anymore, the counting stats will drop considerably and show him for what he is.
It kind of reminds me of, and I just had this thought in my head as you were talking about it. Back a couple of years ago when Blake Bortles was one of the highest scoring fantasy football quarterbacks because literally the Jacksonville Jaguars would always be down. So he's just scoring a ton of points in garbage time. It almost seems like Rasmus Ristolainen is kind of like a garbage time defenseman where he gets his points, but he gets points because he's put in those situations where if you don't get points, you're going to get booted out. So it's like, well, he's I guess what I'm trying to say, I kind of lost my train of thought there. He's on the power play. So they're going to score a power play goal every so often. So there's some points. He plays with Eichel or Reinhart or Skinner. He's going to get points there because they're always scoring. So it's like he seems like they put him in a situation to score points to essentially keep his value up. But we really know that it's kind of like a canary in the coal mine where you're like, okay, great. But what about this gigantic fire over here? Are we supposed to ignore that? So that's kind of what it feels like to me. And like you guys both have said, how much longer can it go on for? We don't know. But hopefully he gets dealt before the infatuation with Rasmus Ristolainen around the league goes away.
Well said.
Now I want to talk about other hot takes, other things that make us mad today. And I can comment on this because I saw Twitter blow up when it happened, when the Buffalo Sabres made their paper moves. Now, normally people don't bite on those things. But I think that tells you a couple things. First off, how little faith fans may have in the front office right now, but also just how kind of trigger happy everybody is because everyone is so frustrated. Mostly those lines that Ben mentioned where we saw Vladimir Sobotka playing on the second line. And I got a couple more gray hairs when I saw that. But then you see these paper moves and you're just like, I don't know. I know they're just paper moves and it's just all about money because they have to skirt around the cap. But I don't know. Like seeing Evan Rodriguez potentially scratched and then you've got Vladimir Sobotka on the second line. I'm just like, I need a bottle of Pepto so I can just start drinking it to get rid of whatever fucking heartburn problem I'm going to have watching this hockey game. Both hockey games this week.
Yeah. It's like, even though they're just paper moves, it makes you think, like, you don't have to make paper moves unless you're, like, super close to the cap at the beginning of the season. And the team is so bad that I feel like they shouldn't be this tight to the cap, like, based on the quality of, like, hockey we're watching.
Let me pop the cap up.
What's funny, too, is that they actually are still over the cap by, I think, Cap Friendly said, like, $26,000. So I don't know what the deadline has already passed, so they must get some, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, but apparently they're still a little bit over the cap as a result. The idea of a bad team needing to mess around with the cap is pretty absurd, that you're paying players at the same level as Toronto and you're nowhere near Toronto's level. And they don't have any benefit of the doubt. They've made some dumb moves, and so it's totally reasonable to kind of freak out when you see them make a dumb move because it's weirdly plausible that they would be like, you know what, Yoki Haru could spend some time in Rochester, and Olsen, let's watch him score 10 goals in Rochester first, and then we'll bring him up. Like, you could totally see them trying to justify, and so that's what made it so bizarre. It makes perfect sense what they did, but I think the reaction was warranted given their track record so far.
I mean, granted, looking at the roster now, they are very tied up to the cap, as you mentioned. But I mean, they've got Zach Bogosian comes off the books after this year. Matt Hunwick comes off the books after this year. There's $8 million right there, almost $8 million. Marco Scandella comes off the
Scandella's off
books.
after this year.
Sabotka's off.
it's-
But then you've got Sam Reinhart's bridge deal that came up, which that's probably going to be quite expensive. So again, with the good,
Such a dumb contract.
it was so bad, especially looking back, so bad. But I mean, you've got Zemgus Girgensons coming up, but he's only 1.6. Johan Larsson's 1.55.
Well, that's
So again,
another-
there's
that's
money to be
another
had, but it's rough.
Like, why did they qualifying offer every single player that was eligible for a qualifying offer? Like, you don't have to do that. Yeah. It
Well,
just,
what's gonna happen when Rasmus Asplund goes to Rochester and tears the cover off the thing for the first 25, 30 games, and they go to call him up, but they're like, oh, we can't because we don't want to lose Girgensons or we don't want to lose Larson. And don't get me wrong, in the right roles they can be fine, but they don't score goals. And at the end of the day, scoring goals is the name of the game. If you don't, you can be a great checker, or hey, I'm really good at the penalty kill. Great. Do you score goals? Because that's been the problem with the Buffalo Sabres for, as long as I can remember, they haven't been able to score goals. And you're going to go out and put a bottom six out there of guys who are either shells of their former selves or they just can't score. And that's not effective at all.
yeah. What makes it even sadder looking at the lineup is like a lot of those contracts aren't even on Botterill. Like, he didn't sign them. It's just they're impossible to move. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm never gonna be mad at Kyle Opozo because it's like literally not his fault that he has like a traumatic brain injury and he is not the same player that he was. Like, he was a good power forward in his day, and it's also not his fault. Like, I would take $6 million. Like, of course I would
Absolutely.
take that every day of the week, but it just sucks. Like, that contract is like not movable. Like, maybe Seattle will take it if we like give them something else, but like, it becomes really hard to build a good roster when you have those contracts.
Taking a look right now. I want to see if I can find this is why I like to plan for the podcast, because I'm very scatterbrained when it comes to doing these things. Because I'll be sitting here talking, I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, and I'm terrible with it.
Well, I'll say on the Evan Rodriguez stuff, I don't know if you saw, but he and his wife were kind of out liking certain tweets on Twitter today. So it seems like they might be just as frustrated, which was interesting to see, and rightfully so. The idea that he's even an extra, working in on the fourth line or something is pretty absurd. I wrote about it this summer on Die by the Blade about just, how valuable a player Rodriguez has been for the Sabres, especially at what he's cost against the cap. And he's arguably been the second best center on the team since O'Reilly left, which is pretty absurd. That's not a good sign of a good team. He should at best be the third and, in a really good situation, your fourth line center. But he not only is a decent enough puck driver offensively, he's very good defensively and prevents any real opportunities in the high danger areas. And so I showed some of the stats from Michael Blake McCurdy and the Evolving Hockey Guys. And then I did a lot of video work as well in addition to that, because the thing that's interesting about Rodriguez is he's not exceptional at one or two things that really stand out. He's just kind of pretty good at everything. And when you're talking about value contract players, especially at a position of need like center, those are it's just unbelievably valuable. And the fact that they're working him in as a winger on the fourth line, and it appears he's going to get scratched on Thursday night, is absurd to me. And it really makes me nervous about their ability to evaluate talent, because that's such an easy player, because he does not take up cap space. He does what he is asked to do, and he does it well. And I think that is the thing that annoys me the most about what we've seen so far from Kruger and Botterill, and the fact that Botterill went to arbitration with a player as good as Evan Rodriguez and didn't try to get a 3-year deal or something with him. That's the kind of stuff that starts to make me nervous about management and the coaching staff.
Looking at, oh, sorry, I was going to say, I'm looking at Sabres.com, and I'll let Hannah go so I can calm down before I start to talk about this.
But with Rodriguez, I feel like you could have very easily locked him in a 3-year, $2.5 million contract, and you would have gotten that value out of him. And instead, he's got arbitration rights again next year, and then he'll probably walk from the team just because he has not been treated particularly well, it doesn't seem. And it's frustrating because he is such a like undervalued player besides the few of us on like Sabres Twitter who are like Evan Rodriguez fan accounts.
I think he's a good middle six guy. Like he's second, third line that he can go anywhere you need him to go. He can do anything you need him to do, like Ben said. But that's the frustrating thing about we see new coaches come in, new regime, new systems being put in place. Like I mentioned, looking over here on Sabres.com, just scrolling through to look for the lineup. And I see this thing about Ralph Kruger talking about Zemgus Girgensons, about how they're talking about how he has one of the heaviest defensive workloads in the NHL last year. Even though he prides himself on that defensive game, which whatever, Girgensons expressed a belief that Kruger's system, which allows players to play instinctually on offense, will allow him to recapture his confidence on offense. Hi, what drugs are you smoking? The reason Zemgus Girgensons scored 15 goals that one season was because Ted Nolan's system was literally, hey, go out and do whatever you want. Just play hockey. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's
right.
rough.
So, I mean, I'll push back on that a little bit. There is, I think, one of Housley's biggest faults. I sort of don't blame him, but one of his biggest faults was relying so heavily on Girgensons and Larson in the defensive zone. It showcased how good a defensive player Larson can be, but it severely hurt Larson and Girgensons' offensive numbers. Mm-hmm. And so as a result, they obviously look even worse than maybe they are. Girgensons' a really funny player when you look. He is, when you often hear the stats people refer to a replacement level player. And so the goal is to be an above replacement level player for the NHL. And basically every metric suggests that Zemgus Girgensons is the replacement player. He is not a negative on your team. He is also not a positive. He just is like the bare minimum NHL player, which is really funny. And, you know, it doesn't hurt that much to have one of those players. So I don't have to hate Girgensons that much, but I think as a result, they should probably not use him so dramatically in the defensive zone as they did last year, because I think that hurt some of his results. I mean, scoring 5 goals when whatever percentage, I should look it up, but whatever percentage of the faceoffs he took in the defensive zone is somewhat impressive. I didn't need him on the team. I didn't need him to qualify him because I don't think he's that important as it is. But, if one good thing Kruger could do is try to balance the zone starts a little bit better outside of the middle stat line. I want the middle stat line starting mostly in the offensive zone, but other than them, I think trying to spread that out a little bit more should maybe raise everyone's offensive output potentially.
I just guess at what point in time do they decide, hey, let's stop rolling out the same bottom 6 or whatever, and actually try to get more talent in those bottom 2 lines, or even the bottom 3 lines. Like, I don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
I know that like money is a problem in being able to actually acquire those players, but there are teams out there that do it. So what's the problem?
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, one of the reasons you look at replacement level stats is so that you can see, okay, who are we paying too much for something we can get cheaper? So this year, Girgensons is going to make $1.6 million, which against the cap isn't that much, but like, pick a guy from Rochester, CJ Smith didn't have a very good training camp, I don't think. And so I'm not crying over him being sent back to Rochester, but is it unreasonable to think that he could be at least replacement level, if not a touch above replacement level at more than half the cost of Girgensons? That's where that really comes into play. And, so in that case, I didn't need them to qualify Girgensons, but they could probably use him better than they did last year as well.
Yeah, I think my thing was like qualifying Girgensons, Larkin, Remy Ellie, not Larkin. Wow, I wish. What's his face? I'm losing my mind, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. Full disclosure, I have been drinking.
Sorry, I'm fighting my cat over here. She's trying to chew my computer cords.
Yeah, but like qualifying every single player that was optional to be qualified, like that was the baffling part to me. You didn't need to do that. There are guys sitting in Rochester who can probably be replacement level at, like Ben said, like half the cost. So
it's also really hard to find out if players are valuable if you don't ever give them the chance.
Yeah.
And when you do call them up, you're like, here, you're going to play strictly the defensive zone. It's like, well, I'm a goal scorer. It's like, oh, too bad. You're not anymore. Oh, great.
Right. So real quick, I did find the stat, and this is shocking. So most of Gergenson's career, the percentage of 5-on-5 faceoffs he lined up for was roughly, in the offensive zone, was roughly 49 to 50%. Please give me a guess on what percentage of his 5-on-5 faceoffs took place in the offensive zone last year.
25.
I think I saw
Ryan?
a number, so I don't want to guess because I think I saw the number.
15.93%.
I was going to say 15%. Yeah.
Oh my God.
He took 72 faceoffs in the offensive zone all of last year at 5-on-5.
Yikes.
That is shocking. That's shocking. Give him 40%, and I bet he scores 9 or 10 goals. Like, that's crazy. 15%. Sorry, continue on. I couldn't believe when I saw that.
No, you're okay. Wow.
That's baffling.
Yikes.
Wow.
Well, hey, speaking of baffling, I want to know where do you both of you think that the Sabres are going to finish this year? I threw mine up on diebytheblade.com, cheap plug. I believe I don't remember if I said 83 or 85 points, but one of those three numbers. So we'll just go 84. That's what I said.
I mean, if they hit 86, I'd do a tap dance. I don't think they're going to be very good. I will buy tap shoes and everything.
Yeah, I don't know about point number. Off the top, I think they'd be doing good to get 82. I think the over under on most betting sites is 83.5. I would probably take the under, but it's close. As far as the division is concerned, they're going to finish 6th again. Best case scenario, Montreal proves to not be as good as they appear to be last year, and you can jump them and you finish 5th in the Atlantic. And I mean, if you finish 5th in the Atlantic, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say they're going to get 82 points. They're going to make the playoffs. But if they somehow finish 5th in the Atlantic, I also don't think it's crazy for them to battle for the wild card at that point. But, that takes a lot. There's a lot else that needs to happen for them to even consider that. So, yeah, I don't know. At this point, I would take the under on the betting line outside of trading Ristolainen for, as I keep saying, and Ehlers or any capable forward to replace his bad defensive play with a good player at forward. It's a total game changer. And so outside of that happening, though, yeah, I don't know, 82 points probably.
Yeah, I also have them finishing 6th in the Atlantic in my preseason preview, and I'm just a lot of things have to fall their way for them to finish 5th, and it's I don't think Montreal will be as good as they were last year. I think Max Domi is going to come back down to earth, but yeah, I don't see them being top 5 in the Atlantic, which sucks.
Which is very exciting with hockey season only a couple days away, huh?
It's great. You know what? We're going to have a night before the season starts. So what, tonight, tomorrow? There's going to be a Ristolainen trade. And we're all going to be so happy. We're going to be so happy. We're going to do a dance. It'll be great. But
well, what's funny is it wouldn't shock me if it came tomorrow given it wasn't just a paper. I mean, it was a paper move today, but the reason it was done was so that they were as close as possible to the cap, so that when Hunwick is placed on LTIR, they get basically full cap relief for it. So they're going to get close to $2.5 million in cap relief. So it wouldn't shock me if a Ristolainen trade came this. I don't remember when LTIR kicks in, if it's tomorrow or if it's game 1. I guess it must be tomorrow. So I think once that officially kicks in and they have the cap relief, the Ristolainen trade has to happen. It has to. There is no way it can't.
Well, and there are teams out there, Winnipeg, who could probably use a defenseman at this point, and just make it happen.
Has there ever been a more direct, a perfect landing spot for where a team is in need of a specific player, where a team has that player that clearly has made moves that indicates that they want to get rid of said player, and said player clearly wants to be traded, and it has not happened between these two teams, and it is baffling to me. I do not understand what is holding up. The Laine and Connor contracts have been figured out. thing is, I guess the Bufflin situation is still up in the air, and a lot of space Winnipeg needs to figure out. But it is wild to me that trade hasn't happened, because it makes so much sense.
Yeah. I guess if they think Bufflin's going to come back, they don't make that trade, because then they are pretty tight to the cap, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's a really good fit, I think. And I think that could be one of those trades where you kind of say, oh, both teams did well, and you don't have to say there's a winner or a loser, even though I think any team with Rasmus Ristolainen is a loser.
I like that. I like that take. That's it.
That's it. That's where it is.
I mean, looking at it, yeah, I agree that Winnipeg is probably the landing spot, but how awkward is it going to be going into the season with knowing Rasmus Ristolainen does not want to be in Buffalo? He's made those thoughts pretty clear, and here we are, like I said, October 1st, and the season's in a couple days, and he's
right. And he's a big defenseman that's going to play a lot of minutes, and watch him get hurt Thursday night, and he's out for 6 weeks, and now we can't. There's no hope for a trade, because then you have to wait for him to come back, and then he's going to have to play for 2 or 3 weeks to prove to other teams that he is capable of playing now, and the injury isn't going to hold him back. It's just a huge mess that should have been taken care of in July.
Yeah, when they weren't playing him in preseason, I kept getting my hopes up, the trade is coming. It's coming. And
they looked Sean McCoy the whole situation, absolutely, where they're like, we're not going to, he's just taking his time coming back. It's like, okay, we're not stupid.
Yeah, but here we are suffering instead.
Hey, we're all Sabres fans. That's what we get. That's what we deserve, right?
Yeah.
Now, is there anything else that either of you want to talk about today? Because I'm out of things to talk about, because I'll keep getting mad. But I want to give you guys the floor.
I mean, I will say that I think, Ben, you go.
No, I was going to fill the air because I didn't have a specific thing either. So please.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sorry. This is it's a lot easier to do a podcast with multiple people in person, but we're all in 3 separate locations, so it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, you put me on the spot, but I'm going to say that Sam Reinhart's going to come out and have a career year. And
that's what I do. I put people on the spot.
Yeah, the Sabres are going to he's going to make the Sabres pay him stupid money. He's going to have himself a season, and he's going to make Casey Middlestat actually be able to perform if they put him on Casey's line, which I think they should. And it's going to be that'll actually be the glimmer of hope that we keep seeing. We'll be oh, Sam Reinhart is very good at hockey, and everyone who was ever mean to him can suck it.
I can't wait until we get that, because it's Buffalo moment where Reinhart makes Middlestat look a lot better. And then the Sabres justify letting Reinhart go because they get rid of him because they say, well, Casey Middlestat can fill that role. And then I drive my car off of a bridge.
Yeah, well, no, I'm glad you brought up Reinhart, though, because I didn't think about that. But I thought about this the other day regarding Jack Eichel. I think we're at the point now where we should be expecting at minimum 90 points out of him, and there's no reason he shouldn't be flirting with 100 points, because he's either going to be playing with Olofsson or Skinner, depending if Olofsson is the goal scorer we hope he is, that works. If not, they'll put Skinner back on the line, and they've got a year of working together under their belt. He should be approaching 100 points at this point. And, in the same vein, I don't see why Sam Reinhart can't be hitting 70 points going forward, especially if we can raise the game of someone like Middlestat, who has the talent to potentially do something. I mean, Reinhart had 65 points last year. I know a lot of it was with Eichel, but as we've come to know through some of the underlying stats and some of the stuff we just watched him as he played the last couple of years, is he drives play, and he is an extremely talented player in and of himself. And there's an argument to me that all the time he has carried Eichel when they played together in certain games. So, another year he's going to be 23 now. I don't know how old he is, but he should be a 70-point guy, and Eichel should be a 90 to 100, and Skinner should, score 35 goals. And if Olsen is what we hope he is, and Middlestat proves to be the top end prospect we kind of hoped he would have been last year, I mean, there is promise there, but it's a lot of hope and ifs and wishes, and that sort of freaks me out. But yeah, like you said about Reinhart, he should be a 70-point guy, and he's going to get 8x8 next year, and an $8 million contract, and we're going to be kicking ourselves, and Bottrell's going to be kicking himself that he wasn't able to get a locked in at $6 million a year last summer. So.
Jokes on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pro player, so like get your money, Sammy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just like I think a lot of like Sabres fans are like, well, if this falls right and this and this and this, then we'll have a good season. And that's just like banking on a lot going the right way when like it's Buffalo. Has anything like ever gone the right way?
Yeah, but you're not wrong there.
Yeah. But I guess like I also kind of wonder, I think I wondered this at this time last year too, but like what will Connor Sheary end up being? And like, will he have a sort of bounce back season, or will he continue to like just kind of not produce?
Yeah, I would absolutely bet on the over on Sheary, whatever. I don't know what, I also doubt that there are any booking places that care enough to have a Sheary line. But if there were to be a Sheary line, I would bet the over in that case. Cause I think, I'm going to do my best to figure out the stats right now, but he had a career low shooting percentage this year or last season. So I would bank on him. Yeah. So he's basically been a 12% shooter at 5-5. Obviously a lot of it was with Crosby. So drop it to 10%, whatever. Last year he was 6.5%. Like bring him up to 10% and he's got 13, 14 goals at 5-5 plus a few on power play. And, he's a 17, 18 goal scorer potentially. So I would absolutely bet on him having a big bounce back year this year.
My cat just tried to hang herself under my computer desk.
It's because you knew we were talking about the Sabres.
She's mad about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you're not kidding there.
Yeah. I hope you're right, Ben, but just like, I have so little faith at this point.
I'm just sick of going into seasons going, well, if this, then that, then this, then that. It'd be nice to go into a season where you just go, this team is going to be good and we know it.
Yeah, it would be nice to like have a Boston or a Tampa, but we're in Buffalo. So
it would be nice to have Tampa, and then, when they get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs and you go, what the hell happened? Yeah.
Yeah. But here we are.
Better days, right? That's something like that. Well, it's been depressing. It's been fun. I'm glad we could all get together on the podcast here. We'll have to do it again sometime soon once the season gets started and we can actually talk about not what ifs, but what we're actually watching and what we're seeing. And then also next time I'll have a better written podcast and it'll be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had fun. I'm a loose cannon, so you let me have some hot takes, which I appreciate.
Well, see, my gimmick is always I'm the one that keeps everything on track, and then I just let everyone else just do what they want, and then I'm just the guy that's like, okay, yep, okay, let's bring it back now. That's what I like to do, but I did not have it today. I'm still tired.
Like you're still in Hawaiian time.
Yeah, God forbid I take a vacation, and I'm tired because of it. I went to work today and felt like such a little baby because they're like, well, how you doing? I was like, I'm tired. And they're like, oh, why? It's like, because I went to Hawaii. Like, I probably should just shut up now.
Time zones.
And I should just shut up and deal with it.
Yeah.
But Hannah, Ben, appreciate you joining the podcast. Hannah making your Sabrecast debut, Ben returning to the Sabrecast. We will absolutely do this again sometime soon. And I guess from here, the only thing we really can do is wish well on the Sabres and hope that our next 80, is it 82 or 8? It's 82 games, right?
It's 82. We get 82 and everyone, and some other teams get more.
I don't know why I thought 81 for some reason, but whatever. 82 games.
Well, they do usually seem to check out at the end.
Well, I check out after like 8 games. So, let's try not to do that again this year. When they win 10 games and you're like, awesome. And then all of a sudden they lose like 30 straight and you're like, super rad, dude. This is great. I
got invested.
Yeah, imagine committing yourself to trying to post GIFs of almost every game during the season.
Yeah, you have people like yelling at you when you don't do it.
I did it to myself. Yeah, I got members of the media tweeting at me last week for a preseason game. Like, where'd you go? I went to a bar with friends.
Are you
they should give you money for that.
I know. Well, trust me, I've looked into it. I turned down an invite to go to game night this week because the season opener is Thursday night, and I'm a broken man here watching this team turn down. There. moments with friends so I can do something for free for 3 hours.
It's really important that you look for me in the stands on Saturday at the home opener, because I will be there, and I will probably.
My intention is to get a gift of you during the season at some point.
I'll be there. I'll probably be wearing my Eichel Team North America jersey. It's all I wear.
I really want to go to the game Saturday, but I'm not sure I'm going to pony up the money to go to the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I can't.
Just wait for any other game that's $10.
Yeah, I figure if I wait a couple minutes, give them like 10 games, and I could just go to a game for free.
But you don't even have to wait. Someone posted today, other than the home opener, the next like 5 games, the most expensive get-in price is $15.
I'm sorry, that's horrible.
They're all already super cheap, and the season hasn't started yet. Other than
I'm going to go take a look into that tonight then, if that's the case, because I'd love to go to the home opener. It'd be cool, but going to a hockey game is cool when you don't have to spend $100 for you and your wife to go.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll see you at one of the games, because I have like tickets to 10 this year on purpose.
That's good. I like to just snipe the cheap games and then go to those ones, and if they lose, who cares? Because I'm still at the game.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
I'll be at the game in Nashville.
Well, brag.
It is.
We'll be right on over, okay?
It's a Saturday night in January. It's a wonderful time to come to Nashville.
I'm actually super bummed because I'm going to be in Nashville for work in February, and I was like looking at the schedule, and I was like, the fucking Sabres are there the month before.
Yep, January 18th.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not upset because my family members getting married. It's always cool. I'm very excited about it, but it really does suck that the weekend the Bills play the Titans in Nashville. My cousin's getting married, so I was like, cool, great, we can go to the Bills and Titans game. Then I remembered that we can't.
It is going to be a scene this weekend. I've already got my tickets. Going with a group of local Bills fans, and I've got a friend that works in the Titans ticket office, and he said all summer the primary calls he was getting were Bills fans getting tickets for the Bills game. It was the first Titans game to sell out this season was the Bills game. And it is, I'm pretty sure it's all but confirmed that it's going to be majority Bills fans in the stadium this Sunday.
That
Bills
is
fans
going
travel.
to be incredible.
It kind of works too, because this is the first weekend of the direct flight between Buffalo and Nashville.
That's the other reason I wanted to do it.
Wedding.
Because again, I'm not gonna make a big deal here because I don't want to, but I figured my birthday's Saturday, the game is Sunday, it'd be a great time, but instead, I'm just not going to be upset about it.
Open bar. Think about the open bar that'll probably be at the wedding.
Oh yeah, that'll be. I'll probably need it after the Bills lose this weekend. I'm so positive, you guys.
You're doing great today.
Also, my cat is really pissing me off. So this is just, I'm just having a grand old time right now. For some reason, she wants to climb behind my computer, and I cannot figure out why.
She just missed you.
She just wants to lay there and chew on the cords, but she doesn't understand that those cords are very expensive, and I don't want to have to replace them.
That's fair.
Ow, she just ripped my ear. She just ripped my headphone out of my ear. Well, anyways, we have spiraled quickly. I enjoy this. This is fun. This is my favorite kind of podcasting. It's just who cares kind of podcasting. We just sit there, we chat, talk, have a good time. I appreciate you guys again for coming on the podcast, and we will chat very soon, and hopefully go Sabres. If not, don't go Sabres. Whatever you want to do, I don't care. Hockey's back. Our lives are better for it.
Woo.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Ryan Wolfe
And Mr. Perez.
from the Better Live Than Dead podcast. You can catch the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the Gear Radio Network, BetterLiveThanDead.com, and wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
With that being said, hey, we talk about sports, we talk about music, we talk about entertainment.
I make things really awkward sometimes.
That sounds about right.
Uh-huh.
With that being said, though, as you always know, we are Better Live Than Dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you sometime very soon.